Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm, and in this video we are going to add some music and sound effects to our game. This is going to really help to bring it all together and make it feel like a fully polished, fully fleshed out game. So before we even open up Unity, let's talk about how to get free music and free sound effects. For music, my favorite place to go is Free Music Archived. It's completely free to download music off of this website. And a lot of it is geared toward making video games, especially if you're looking for chiptune. Chiptune is that old school 8-bit sound that's really interesting. So for example, like that. That's pretty good. I like that actually. I might download that for another project. It's a little dubsteppy there in a minute. Anyway, if you find music that you like, you can click the little download arrow and it will download that sound effect or that music as a file on your computer. And then you can dump that into Unity and you now have a sound effect that you can play with, or a music file. Let's talk about sound effects. So for my money, I think my favorite website to get sound effects from is this website called freesound.org. You have to create an account, so maybe if you don't want to create an account, you can find another website. There are hundreds of websites that will allow you to download sound clips for your game projects. But I think this one has the most extensive library of sounds. So I'm just going to click on sounds. Let's see. Uncover. That sounds like probably a music track. Metal door closing. There you go. Simple sound effect of a metal door closing. If you need that for your game, there you go. So, and you can do searches up here as well. You can search for the sound you want. And again, if you find, let's see. But that's weird. That's the same metal sound door effect. Random synth. So let's say we wanted the sound effect. All we have to do is click on the title, and then as long as we're logged in, we can click download, and we get it. Now, the thing about getting music and sound effects off of the internet is that if we're doing it just for personal projects or for learning purposes, we don't have to give attribution or tell people where we got the sound effects, but it's always generally a good idea to. If you were to create a project for commercial purposes, you would have to very carefully look at the license that is attached to each of these sounds. For example, if I was to download this, I get a message that pops up that says this song is free to use under specific conditions. And by looking at this badge here, this badge it uses icons that correspond with Creative Commons licenses. And so I can look, just by looking here, it'll tell me that I can't make money on this sound effect. I have to give attribution to the creator. So these badges mean something specific. And Creative Commons will tell you all about which rights you have with this sound effect. So attribution, non-commercial, share alike. And you can read all about what that means. Anyway, so that's enough about finding sound effects. I have Unity open, and I have already downloaded some sound effects and a music file that I really like. And I've put them into my assets folder inside a folder called sounds. Okay, so I have a sound effect that will play whenever I drop a little gloopy blob thing, whatever we're calling them. I think blob, right? We're calling blobs. Yeah, whenever I drop a blob. And then I have a sound effect that will play whenever I pick up one of these refill blobs here. And I have music that's going to play whenever my character, or basically anytime I'm playing the game. So the way these work is these are audio clips. We can actually go into the, let's not play with mixers. That's too advanced for this, I think. But these are audio clips. And if we look at this audio clip, we have some options over here. We generally want to stay away from any of this stuff just because there's really not much that we need here. You can tell there's not a lot of options. And we don't want to change any of this stuff because it may mess with the encoding, the audio encoding that our project uses. So we're just going to stay away from all these options. What we can do, however, is we can find a game object that is always going to be in our game, and we can put sound effects into that game object using something called an audio source. So I'm going to put all of my sound effects onto my ghost because he's always going to be in our game. So down here, I'm going to add a sound effect. I've done a search for audio source, and I will click on it. The audio source is asking for an audio clip. That's what these things are. So let's do the music first. I'm going to drag the music over and drop it into the audio clip section. I have this option here that's already checked by default called play on awake. That means, is this audio going to play as soon as the game starts, or as soon as this object, this ghost object, exists in my game? And that's exactly what I want this to do. I also want this to loop so that if it runs out, if it gets to the end of the sound effect clip, then it plays again. All right. With those things checked, I now have music in my video game. Watch. So I found a music clip that I think is really kind of cool and spooky, and it matches the tone of the game. One thing I'm noticing, though, is that the volume is extremely high. It's set to a high of a 1 at the very beginning. I'm going to bring it all the way down to maybe a 3, so 0.3. 1 is like full volume, and 0.3 is maybe a third of that. So that might feel a little bit better. Okay. So music is really easy to do. But what about these pickups, right? Well, these are actually pretty easy as well. We need to create audio sources for them, and we can have multiple audio sources on one object. So I'm going to grab another audio source, maximize that, and let me do the drop. So we'll do drop right there, and then another audio source. And let's do the, where'd it go? Right there. The pickup sound effect. Now at this point, we need to go into our script because we need to tell our game when to play these sound effects, right? So actually there's something I forgot over here in Unity. You kind of want to do this right away because if you forget, it's going to be annoying when you go to test your game. Remember that I said play on awake is checked by default. You want to uncheck these for your sound effects because you don't want all of your sound effects to fire off as soon as the game starts. So we're going to uncheck both of those. Right. Okay, perfect. And then we'll go back to our script. Okay. So there's a really easy way for us to implement sounds in our game. First, we have to create references to those game objects, right? Just like everything else that we've interacted with, we have to somehow have a reference to it. And we're going to make this reference public. And we're looking for the audio source, okay? Let's call this one drop. And let's create another public audio source. We'll call this pickup. All right, so now we have these audio sources. Now we just need to think about logically when we want to play these sound effects. Well, whenever we drop a blob, that code is handled in here, right? We hit the space bar and then we drop a blob. So all we have to do is add drop.play into this section, which means we're going to instantiate the blob. We're going to reduce one from our blob count. Then we're going to play a sound effect corresponding to that blob. It's that easy. Now for the next one, the pickup, that's going to be handled in our collision, right? So if we collide with a pickup, then we want to pickup.play. And really, again, it's just that easy. It doesn't get much more complicated than that. You can get into mixing sounds and all that other stuff, but for the most part, I mean, it's really that easy. Okay, that's it. That's all of the programming and everything that we have to worry about. I'm going to go ahead and attach it to Unity. And over here in Unity, we have some housekeeping that we have to pay attention to. Hold on. It's freaking out. Okay, so right here we have our public audio source options, and it's looking for our 2 audio sources. I'm gonna collapse this music one. Notice that this audio source for drop is right here. I can just click and drag and leave it right there, and then it will actually show up in that section. And we'll do the same thing for pickup. Okay, and I want to make sure that the volume isn't too high. I think you can kind of get a sense for how loud something is just by looking at the waveform. I think my drop is maybe a bit too high. Let's drop that down about half, 0.5. All right, let's test this out and see how this sounds. Okay, music's coming in. All right, let's try the drop. Okay, the drop works. It works. Let's try the pickup. Pickup works. Maybe the pickup's a little light though. But it's still, you know, it still works pretty well. And that drop might be a little too high. Okay, perfect. There we go. I mean, that's pretty much it. It's working perfectly. We have sound effects now. We have music. Now, some of you are probably thinking, hey, why didn't we make a sound effect for whenever we hit the spike and died? That's a great question. Let me explain to you a little bit about why I left that out, just so that we're all on the same level. So if we were to go in there and, let's say, right in here in the enemy, if we were to go in there and add a pickup.play or a death.play, whatever we called that object, it would play that sound and then it would immediately reload the level, right? Which means our sound would get cut off right away and then we wouldn't even hear it. So there would be no point in putting it in there. Now, we could tell the game to wait until after the sound effect is done to reload the level. The problem with that is there's nothing telling our game to stop letting our ghost move around. So you would hit a spike and then you'd hear a sound effect, but you'd still be able to move and it would be very confusing for the player. In order to tell the script to stop, to make the player stop moving, you would have to deactivate the script itself, or you would have to change the movement on the player inside of this. Are you seeing how complicated it can get if we try to mess with scene management and sounds? So there's a different way to handle that, which I will show you next term when we're working on our next project, our next big project. But for now, the background music, the pickup, and the drop sound effects are really all we need to make this game feel a whole lot better. So, have fun. This is an easy week, but this is the last thing we need to add to make this game feel like a real video game. If you guys have stuck with me so far, you've done a great job, and I'm super happy that we're able to finish this game together. I will. I'll see you next week. I'm going to play this game a little bit more. If it loads. There we go. All right, see you guys later.